Book 11, the Scroll of Watching and War, marks the turning point when the Abon, once devoted wholly to peace and memory, awaken to the need for vigilance. Mysterious erasures, unrootings, and silent omens threaten their secret groves, prompting the creation of the Order of the Watchers and the anointing of the Flamewardens. New towers are built and forgotten tribes return, and ancient tools like the mirror are reforged not for vanity, but for truth. The book ends as the Abon enter the First Vigil, watching not with weapons of conquest, but with memory sharpened like a blade. Chapter 1, The Echoes in the North. In the 31st cycle of the Grove of Gabor, a trembling came upon the scribes of the Northern Watch. Their scrolls were stained with blackened sap, though no wound had touched the trees. They gathered beneath the pillar of root and flame and recited the names of those who sent the lands beyond. None answered. Then rose Tyrene, scribe of the Fourth Order, and read aloud the last entry of the scouts. The branches do not fall, yet the trees grow quiet. From that day forward, no bird flew north of the river Elduin, and no seed borne by wind returned. The elders named the event Withering Without Flame, for no fire had touched the groves, and yet their spirits waned. And all who heard the tale were troubled, for silence had come to a place long hallowed by song. Chapter 2, The Shattered Grove. A company of tenders and watchers journeyed onto the northern borderlands where once stood the grove of Elventh. They found no canopy, no birdsong, no scent of moss, only disturbed soil and memory sundered. The trees, though upright, bore no leaves, their bark was scraped clean, and their rings no longer told the tale of seasons past. One among them, Elarion, knelt and pressed his palm to the roots. He cried aloud, saying, "These trees have been unremembered." Upon each trunk was carved a sigil unknown, burnt not by fire, but absence, as if remembrance itself had fled. The council deemed the grove desecrated and bore its tale to Gabor. For the first time in 300 seasons, the flame was kindled not for celebration, but for mourning. Thus was recorded the first unrooting, a loss not of life, but of legacy. Chapter 3, The Council Divided. The Circle of Stone convened in haste, and all tribes sent word-bearers to speak in the Hall of Runes. Some cried, "Let us hide the flame and tend only in silence," fearing that remembrance had drawn some unknown wrath. Others said, "Let us build towers of seeing, that we might guard what is left." Then rose Mariel, keeper of Gabor, and said, "If the roots are threatened, let the bows not be blind." From that hour, new order was spoken into covenant. The Order of the Watchers, sworn to vigilance without conquest. They were charged not to strike but to see, not to judge but to remember with open eyes. Their mark was the unblinking eye within a ring of bark, and their oath was carved into the stone Dunharrow. And so did the Abon for the first time set their gaze beyond the grove. Chapter 4, The Return of the Unmoored. In the 9th week of the watch, a procession came from the northern mists. Men and women clothed in gray, their eyes heavy with years. They bore no banners, only staffs of driftwood etched with lines that moved when unlooked upon. The elders knew them as the Unmoored, a tribe thought lost in the days before the covenant. They spoke little, and when they did, their tongues bent the air like heat over stone. One among them, tall and hollow-eyed, spoke thus, "We have seen the far side of stillness. There walk those who love not the root, nor the memory thereof." And they told of people beyond the waste who speak no name, who leave no carvings, and who burn not but unravel. The watchers listened, and fear did not rise, but memory did sharpen, and the flame was trimmed to a smaller fire, that it might last longer in the dark. Chapter 5, the First Watchtower. And it was decreed by the order of the Watchers that a tower be raised upon the heights of Orithar. The mountain was steep and gave no shelter, but the stones there hummed with memory untouched. Tenders brought saplings to bless the stones, and scribes etched the 4 runes into the foundation. The tower rose by hand with no iron nor haste, but of living rock, sealed with flame-touched bark. Upon its peak was set a basin of clear quartz, in which no water dwelt, but light gathered by day and glowed by night. They called it Halryon, the First Eye, and lit its beacon not to summon aid, but to remind all to remain watchful. No gate was set within, no bed laid. Those who kept it would not dwell, but pass and remember. And from that day the Flamewardens began their long circuit, walking from tower to tower in silence. Chapter 6, the Whispering Wind. Soon after the lighting of Halryon, the wind turned strange over the southern plains of Medros. It blew not with strength, but with speech, though none could name the tongue. Shepherds and scribes heard it differently. Some heard mourning, others warning. The watchers wrote down the sounds, carved into stone tablets so as not to fade. And lo, when compared, they formed verses that none among them had spoken. When the flame is still and the bark forgets, beware the silence that walks. The elders wept, for such words had not been sung since the time before the sundering, and it was said then that the wind itself may bear memory, and forgetfulness rides as a thief upon it. Chapter 7, the Dimming of Endoreth. Word came from the Vale of Endoreth that the canopy was fading, though no sickness was seen. Songbirds no longer returned in spring, and the sacred pool at its heart stood still and unreflecting. The tender sent to listen returned troubled, for the trees had ceased to speak. One sapling newly planted withered in a single night. Then did Larael, Flamewarden of the Eastern Path, press her palm to the soil and receive no warmth. She wept and declared, the grove is sleeping with its eyes open. All memory kept there, once vibrant, now red as ash, its carving dulled, its names fading. The council declared Endoreth dimmed and placed its name among sacred silences. Chapter 8, the Grove of Blades. Beyond the river Telion stood a grove known for its fruit-bearing limbs and prayers of peace. Pilgrims came yearly to gather blossoms for the festival of seed and fire, but in the 40th cycle a pilgrim came forth screaming, her hands bloodied by thorns that had not been. The grove had changed. Where once grew smooth boughs, now stood twisted branches, their edges sharp as flint. The fruit once golden now hung blackened and bitter, and birds lay still beneath the trees. Scribes entered it and found every name etched in reverse, and none could read them. Elders declared it the first sacred loss, a grove fallen not by fire but by rejection of memory, and none were permitted to tend it again, save for those willing to walk unarmed and alone. Chapter 9, the Flamewardens are anointed. In the 13th season of the Watch, it was agreed by the council that memory alone must not stand unguarded, for silence had grown heavier and not all losses could be reclaimed by song. So were chosen among the Watchers a new order, those who would walk not only with scroll and staff, but with shield and vow. They were named the Flamewardens, and were given tunics of bark-dyed cloth and cloaks woven with flame-vine silk. Each bore a staff carved of skyroot, inlaid with 4 stones, embered, obsidian, crystal, and seed. They were charged to defend the sacred groves, not by might, but by presence. Wherever they walked, remembrance followed, and forgetting fled. Chapter 10, the Trial of 4 Runes. Before one could be called a Flamewarden, 4 trials were laid upon the path, each bound to a rune of the Covenant. The first was memory, to walk with the grove of names and speak aloud 1,000 that came before. The second was tending, to mend a sapling whose roots were cut, using no tools but breath and patience. The third was vigilance, to keep alone for 3 nights beside a silent tree and see what others missed. The fourth was voice, to sing the song of root and flame before no ear but one's own, and still believe it heard. Many came, and few passed. Those who failed were not cast out, but sent back with honor to the groves, for the flame chooses not by strength, but by stillness and will. The last song of Failwind. From the far wood realm of Failwind, no messenger had come in 5 cycles. The scribe sent word, and no answer returned. Then one day a wandering tender came up to a single tree standing alone at the border of marsh. Upon its bark was carved a song in the style of the old tongue. It sang of loss, not by blade nor flame, but by forgetting, a song that could not be sung twice. The bark ended with the words, "We remember still, but only this tree." When the tender touched it, the tree withered, and its sap turned clear as water. No sign of Failwind was ever found thereafter, and the grove was left untouched, a place of sacred silence where only one name is spoken. Chapter 12, The Watch at Dunharrow. In the northern heights of Dunharrow, where cliffs meet sky, the Watchers built their second great tower. Its light burned red at dusk, gold at dawn, and its voice carried on the wind like a whispering hymn. From its summit, figures were seen beyond the mist, neither beast nor branch, but men who did not move. They stood for 3 nights, unmoving, unblinking, and at dawn of the 4th they were gone. Yet below the cliffs, groves began to yellow and shrink as if trees had lost heart. The Watchers declared this the first encroachment without touch, and doubled their rounds. From that day the vigil was named not by its watch alone, but by the price it must pay to keep the flame whole. Chapter 13, The Mirror Recast. In the vaults beneath Gabor, the shards of the broken mirror were kept, hidden since the sundering. None dared reforge it for fear of awakening false visions or prideful light. But in the age of the watch the elder spoke, saying, "Let the mirror return, not for vanity, but for discernment." They summoned artisans from 4 groves, each bearing gifts, a drop of sap, a flake of ash, a shard of starlight, and a tear of silence. With care and reverence the mirror was reforged, not polished, but veiled, not perfect, but true. It no longer showed the face, but the flame within, revealing the fire one carried and the memory one had forgotten. It was placed in the Hall of Watchers, and all who served passed before it once each season, lest their own purpose grew dim. Chapter 14, The Deep Grove of Silence. There lay in the far west a hollow known only in rumor, where no wind stirred and no beast entered. The Watchers called it Nerethiel, a deep grove, and sent a Flamewarden to walk its still paths. She returned with no speech, only tears. Elders questioned her, but she spoke not for 7 days. At last she said, "I heard not a voice, but a weight. The sorrow of all who have been forgotten dwelleth there." And from that day no Watcher entered Nerethiel without song upon their lips and memory in hand. And the deep grove became a place of testing, where silence was heavier than steel. Chapter 15, The Writ of Vigilance. As the seasons turned and the towers burned ever brighter, the Flamewardens gathered in Gabor. There they carved upon the western gate the sacred writ, to guard without glory, to remember without rage, to fight without forgetting. And it was said that whoever could not bear these words should not bear the flame. The writ was carried to all towers and hung in all groves, that ever the saplings might learn what it meant to stand. Chapter 16, The First Vigil begins. On the eve of the long frost, the watchtowers were manned, the spire lit, and the groves fell silent. No horns were sounded, no banners raised, only the flame burned, steady and unseen. The scribes closed their scrolls not in ending, but in holding, for what must be remembered had only begun. The Abon entered their first vigil, not in fear, but in faith, knowing that peace unguarded is peace unwound. And though the shadows grew, the flame did not tremble, for it was born in the hearts of those who chose to watch.